Welcome back to the Herbalist Hour. Today I'm excited to have on yet again Robin Rose Bennett. Welcome to the show, Robin.
Thanks, Mason. Always great to be here.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and the flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Umami, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
We're going to chat about your book, your new book, quite a bit. It's called The Young Green Witch's Guide to Plant Magic. And as I was telling you pre-call, I was very excited to do this interview because I don't know if it's just for young witches. I think it's for people like me too, who've even been in the game for a while. I absolutely adore this book. The illustrations are really pretty too, but you've just got so much going on in here. There's recipes, there's rituals, there's all of the above, and I want to get into all of that. But to kick things off, I kind of want to read a segment from your intro, which I just really adored this. You said, yeah. No matter how much we learn, we'll never know everything, and that's okay because it's much more fun to keep an open mind and keep learning and discovering new things about ourselves and the world around us. And just to kind of chime in on that, I remember when I was a younger fella, I had this whole perfectionism thing, and I felt like if I wasn't perfect at something, I wouldn't even try, or you see what I'm getting at? And I just feel like that's such an important message, especially for the young witches out there. So can you kind of expound upon that quote?
Yeah, I mean, like yourself and like so many students I work with of every age, from the youngest to the eldest, perfectionism runs rampant, and it's a spirit killer. It takes all the joy out of everything. And so I thought if I can somehow instill the beauty of curiosity and wonder and allowing ourselves to enjoy the process of learning in people at a younger age, or really at any age, right? It's so helpful, right? It allows us to, like you said, try new things. Whether it's an art class or it's a dance class or it's to learn about herbs. You go in and you're like, I don't know anything. Well, of course you don't know anything, right?
You're just getting going.
Student, you're learning, and so that's my expounding on that. And I definitely suffered from perfectionism for the longest time, and I highly don't recommend it. I recommend composting perfectionism and instead opening to experiencing and learning and allowing. I have so much more fun now that I'm okay to look foolish.
Did you say composting perfectionism?
I did.
I remember in our first interview, I want to say you said it then. You said something about you're an herbalist, but you're also a writer. And that's one thing I've noticed about you. You have such a way with words. I want to say when I was reading the book, you said you don't like to use the term invasive plants. You use pervasive. And I thought that was such a fun mindset shift. But kind of going back to the perfectionism topic, I remember even when I first started getting into herbalism, I was probably about 18 or 19. So I was a little bit older. But that was the same thing as I feel like when I first got into herbalism, I really felt like, I have to know all of these facts about the plants, but that's not necessarily the case. It's really more the joy of connecting with the plants and learning as you go. So that it kind of made me think about that as well.
And being whatever kind of herbalist you are, like I know it's so easy to get intimidated rather than inspired, right? So if you like somebody who might inspire you, if you were open to just being you, not them, right? It opens you to inspiration because it's like there's certain herbalists who do have an amazing grasp of let's say pathologies or Western medical pharmaceuticals. And so they put that that's how they do their herbalism, how they offer herbs to people. Whereas I do it completely differently. You may do it differently than that. So it's also about learning, who am I authentically? And that is really a key theme I'm sure you saw runs all through this book is how the plants help us become ourselves because they are each so themselves. Dandelion is dandelion. Doesn't try to be oak.
I was actually going to ask you about that. You were saying, yeah, dandelion loves to be dandelion, and then it could help teach us how we could be ourselves. So, I guess I would love to hear you, yeah, expound upon that more. How do the plants teach us to become more of ourselves and not worry about like trying to be, we're all influenced by our friends and everything, and that's all well and
Mhm.
good. But we really, you also mentioned the Sarah Artemisia, what is that, the Plant Spirit podcast, something about the plants not only teach us to be ourselves, but they also help us remember who we used to be and the activities and hobbies that we used to have. So how are the plants teaching us to do all this?
Would that I knew that. How they do it. That's their mystery. That's their magic.
Amen.
But no, right. But let's see. There's a lot there in that question, right? We could talk the whole hour about that, and longer. But let me try a few things. One, first, the plants teach us because they help us to slow down, right? And that's so essential to this whole process of green witchery and herbal medicine in general, connected to the earth, right? If I want to learn from a plant, I have to slow down, right? Because that plant isn't running off, there, right? That plant is right where it is. And so that's one thing, just right there. When you stop, you feel your feelings, right? Which is part of why we're discouraged from doing it, right? Always multitask, always be on the run. So no, so the plants, it starts there. Then if I am looking to learn, say, from willow, right? And I'm sitting with a willow tree and I'm breathing with that willow, and the willow, you know this, right? And probably a lot of the people listening to us right now do, right? The plants listen, they respond. And so I'll watch that willow kind of maybe do a little flowing movement where a minute before there was no breeze, right? And so that kind of helps me become a little more fluid and flexible. But more than anything, it's what I see is, again, that plant, like, okay, burdock is burdock, right? It's totally who it is. It's never trying to be anything else, right? So I see burdock, for example, as a grandfather plant, right? So somebody else might not see burdock as a grandfather plant, but no matter what your story we write about it, burdock is there with that root in the earth, right? And those leaves of the first year that open wide in this beautiful, like, kind of female rosette. And then this very, like, yang masculine, right, stalk that comes up. So burdock exemplifies, like, so much to me, like, of being open and yet strong, and of being really grounded in the earth and yet, lifting up for the overview. So burdock is who it is. So every time I take burdock into me, what I have learned, what I have found is burdock helps me be more Robin Rose. And how they do that is a mystery I don't even care to solve, because I think that's part of, the excitement of why herbalism stays so fresh, right? Like, I don't know how long you've been doing it, but for me, it's like many decades. And yet it's so still wonderful and magical. So the plant, it kind of, if you think about the phrase, we are what we eat, right? Or I like to take it one step further. We are what we assimilate, right? What we take in from what we eat, what nutrients. So when I take in that plant's medicine, the physical medicine, let's say rose, I take in the antioxidants and the vitamins. I'm also taking in rose's spirit, rose's essence, which is an essence of, I'm Rose, I am beautiful, right? And I have thorns. I know how to claim my space. All those things help me learn how I do that. What's my beauty? What's my way to claim my space? So I believe just that being with them, imbibing them, even crafting with them, breathing with them, by them being who they are, when we breathe that in, eat that, drink that, it happens. Alchemy, we begin to become more of who we authentically are. And it always seems to bring more joy and liberation.
Yeah.
And then with that, if I'm more joyful and more liberated, it is automatic pilot that I am going to care about everybody else's joy and liberation. I've just seen it happen with so many thousands of people that I know it's true. It's not just me, right? When we fill up with ourselves, then we want to give our gifts. So this is healing ourselves, our family, our community, our cultures, which are in dire need of healing, right? Of evolution. And here we are, and the plants want to help. They really do.
Just a quick break from the show to thank our presenting sponsor, Oshala Farm. Oshala Farm is a beautiful and vibrant certified organic herb farm based in Southern Oregon, where they grow and sell over 80 different plant species. The founders, Elise and Jeff Higley, have been longtime friends, so I highly trust their growing methods and ethics. You'll love the potency and vibrancy of all the herbs they have to offer. To learn more and purchase their herbs and other organic goods, head to oshalafarm.com. So thanks once again to Oshala Farm for sponsoring the Herbalist Hour. Now back to the show. Enjoy. Now I can see why you could spend an entire hour plus on that one topic. I totally understand. And you mentioned rose. I am drinking some rose tea. I got the recipe from your book. It's basically just rose petals and hot water, but it's helping center me. And I don't remember if you said this in the book or not, but it kind of came to mind as you were talking. We don't need the dandelion to be a rose. The reason why we love the dandelion is because of its dandelionness. And did you say that in the book, or am I?
But what I said was dandelion never wishes it was a rose. It doesn't wish it was rose. It's happy being dandelion.
Yeah.
Right, and being yellow and sunny, and I think it's such a great plant in the, the way it's down in the earth, pulling up those deep, dark nutrients, and yet the top is like this sunshine, this field of sunshine. Whoever got the idea it should be poisoned out of existence, like that's insane, right? That's insane. But the dandelion is a beautiful, and another way that plants teach us to be ourselves. And this is all in addition, right, to all the physical healing they offer us, is because they're multifaceted. And we are all multifaceted, right? And that maybe goes even back to the perfectionism thing. We think we're supposed to be one way all the time, right? And we're not. We're made up of all the different facets of ourselves. And, sometimes we're generous and sometimes we're selfish. And so, but we are designed to continue to grow like plants, and ultimately, right, to shed our form and give ourselves back to the earth, right? We're just like them.
Well, speaking of being multifaceted, I want to tell you about my experience doing the juniper berry ritual connection ritual, which I would love for you to get into that later on in the episode, but we're already in the quote unquote weeds, I suppose. Maybe I should have even led with this question, because we really do want to talk a lot about the book. Just what inspired you to write this book, and who would you say is your core demographic for it?
Well, the marketing people would say my core demographic is 8 to 13-year-olds. I would say I wouldn't even say core demographic, but I would say that my readers are anyone who wants to re-enchant themselves with being alive in a body on the earth. I hope that's not too general. I think that it is a desirable thing. And what inspired me to write it was actually a very roundabout way. I have written a novel, which is not out in the world yet. I'm seeking my midwife, my agent for that novel. And one of the agents I reached out to wrote back and said, "I'm sorry, this isn't for me. I only do children's market." Oh, well, months later, maybe 6 months later, I get an email from her and she says, "I don't know if you remember me, but you queried me about your novel, your adult novel." She says, "But an editor approached me and she's looking for an herbal medicine book for kids. And she's looking for it to be," and I quote, "feminist, empowering, and witchy. Are you interested, Robin Rose? Are you interested in writing this book?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am."
That's perfect.
So that was the genesis of the Young Green Witch book. And, I'm so thrilled that that happened. And it's a funny thing, right? Just even to think about in a general way, when we're putting energy out for what we want, other good things can come. And right, because that novel person still hasn't come, but other good things have come, and that will come when it's time. So the plants also teach us about trusting the cycles, trusting the timing, when it's time to bloom, when it's time to, dandelions, right? The flowers close when rain is coming, right? So we need to know when to just kind of quiet our energy, when to open. They have so many lessons, right? They have so many teachings.
Yeah, there's a lot of those types of observations that I've noticed in the book. And, I've been doing the herbal thing, like I mentioned earlier, since I was like 18, and I've learned a lot of this stuff along the way. But it was me just reading, it was like a great reminder, because I feel like it put me back in like that magical mind state. But I also appreciate, I'm just picturing the young person out there reading this, discovering some of these lessons for the first time, like you talked about the dandelions opening and closing. I like that you mentioned that pears and almonds and all that are actually in the rose family. If I was told that when I was younger, I would have been mind blown. And there's just so much good stuff.
Yeah, I didn't have any like earth connection stuff when I was young, like for a really long time, and even into like young adulthood. My interest was all like in the spiritual, and that's great, and it's still with me. But bringing it into earth brought joy in a much more integrated way, and joy is medicine. Amen. And I'm going to ask if you want to go back, and if you don't, you don't, but if you want to go back to what you were saying about the connection ritual, you wanted to say something about it, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Nice segue there, Robin. So as you know, last week we were trying to do the interview and had some technical difficulties, and I was being overly judgmental about myself and kind of stressing as I do. And Amanda actually recommended it. I just go meditate. And I was like, shoot, I'm reading Robin Rose's book right now, and I'd come across the connection ritual, which you have kind of early on in the book. I want to say before you even get into the plants. And I was like, well, that sounds like a perfect meditation. And we have a very tiny yard, 0.1 acre, but just down the street there's this beautiful juniper tree. And mind you, it's 5 degrees. We're recording this in December in Wisconsin, and it was 5 degrees out, but I was like, shoot, I'm going to go out there anyways. 5-10 minutes. I sat with the juniper tree under the tree, and I like how you specify you could either be like facing it, you could have your back against it. If you're hanging out with a smaller plant, it might be a different story, but I was hanging out with the tree. I sat against the back with my back against the tree, and I just started kind of breathing with it, breathing in and out, and picturing, me sharing the breath with the juniper tree. And first of all, that was really relaxing, but then I started making these observations, and one of the observations I noticed was I feel like when I'm looking at a plant, sometimes I could start to think, oh, this juniper tree is just its berries or just its branches or just its trunk. And when I was sitting there, I want to say I was maybe more than 5 minutes, but below 10 minutes. And by the end of the meditation or the ritual, I realized that this tree wasn't just any one part of the plant, it was a whole being. And it seems so obvious, but sometimes I forget this. Like, we'll talk about this more later. We live in this high, fast-paced techie world, and even someone like me who's in the herbal community, I interview herbalists for a living. I'll forget this sometimes, and in the dead of winter, all I had to do was go out there, connect with this plant, see it as this full, beautiful being, and not just as like some sort of commodity for my herbal medicine or something like that, but it was there. I was being with it, I was living with it, I was breathing with it, and I just felt so grateful and present by the end of that, and it did the job.
I love that story. And the other side of it is that it is a reciprocal blessing, because that juniper tree also not only gave to you, but received from you, and had the, in whatever tree way one does this. I'm not a tree, so I can't say, but had the opportunity, if you will, to give to you. Right. And the plants love to give. Right. Just like how it feels good to us to give of ourselves, when, when it's an act of generosity, not if we feel like burdened with obligation and so forth, right? But, it was Kiwe Dinokwe who said that I'll never forget. I didn't have a lot of time with her, but the little time I had with her was so influential to me. And she said, of all the beings of the earth, the plants are the most generous. They have followed their original instructions from Creator, which is to give of themselves, to all the beings, right? They give to the air, they clean the air, they clean the water. So that's always stayed with me. And I opened my first book, Healing Magic, with that quote, or it's right near the beginning anyway. It meant a lot to me, right? Because it introduced this idea of, it's a consciousness. It's an act of consciousness on their part to give, right? It's not just like I'm taking from you, right? It's reciprocal. It's give and receive. When, I see it all the time. I grew up, quote unquote, as an herbalist in Manhattan. My first 10 years, I was in New York City. And to this day, there's trees I can go back to in the city and I can feel them respond. They're like, oh, it's you, you're here, Cool. And I understand that there are many people in mainstream who think this kind of conversation is crazy, but unfortunately, they're also, just lacking in that openness to that we're meant to be in kinship with everything of the earth. And, there's a reason why depression and anxiety and heart failure and everything so forth, is so epidemic. Right. And it is that lack of connectedness, of feeling kindred that you can go to I went to a pine tree near here one day when I was just really disappointed in a way that somebody had treated me. And I kept trying to shake it with my intellect. And I kept trying to say it didn't matter. And it was eating me out. It was bothering me. And I went to my pine tree, my pine of peace, and I felt better, and so, yeah, I put the rituals in the beginning before so that kids would learn to, a framework for approaching herbal medicine, not just the commodity. And we can all fall into that. We're all human, right? And it's even like seeing one of your faults and thinking that's all you are, right? Yeah. We all do that. But the more we can witness it and be kind to ourselves and I think one of the gifts of getting older is I let go of these things much quicker.
It's great. I love to hear that.
Yeah. So that's what I also wanted to encourage kids with this book is like getting older is awesome.
Yeah.
Right. Every message in our culture is, you just basically, you peak at 22 or whatever. Right. And it's all downhill from there. And it's just ludicrous. And it's self-defeating in a big way.
Oh, yeah. I remember when I was younger dealing with a lot of mental health stuff, I was like, I can't wait to get older because I just intuitively knew that I would give less shit. So I'm glad to hear that you confirmed that.
Absolutely.
While we're talking about the connection ritual, I was thinking, I want to build this into my practice or my daily practice. But then I realized saying a practice is almost like downplaying what it actually is. What we're really doing here is we're building relationships with these plants. And it's like, do I want to build my practice of, hanging out with Amanda or my friends? No, I want to like build deeper relationships with these plants, right?
That's a great point. Yeah, that's beautiful. Although I guess you could have a practice of it, meaning you're dedicated to building and deepening relationships. But yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, right? I mean.
Yeah. And I was encouraged, too, that you were, it sounded like you said, not only was I receiving gifts from the juniper tree, but I was also giving the juniper tree a gift. That was really heartening to me. And I wanted to read another quote from your book. I want to say this was in the second, not the intro per se, but the part after that. You said, a reciprocal relationship is one in which everyone is both giving and receiving from one another. Reciprocal blessings are when what is being exchanged is valuable and makes life better than it would be otherwise. True friendship is a reciprocal blessing. So from that question, I could think of so many ways in which the plants give back to us. And we've kind of covered it a little bit, but just kind of curious from your perspective, what are some ways that we can give back to the plants? And I want to say you actually have a section in here that covers some of that, but how can we give back to the plants that give us so much?
Right. Well, I mean, obviously we can take care of them, right? If it's a drought, we can water them. If we have a garden and the plant is undernourished, right, we can pour nettle tea into the earth, or a seaweed tea or compost tea, right? We can take care of the plants. We also tend to the plants by paying attention to them, right? By listening to them, by receiving their wisdom, literally, physiologically, they are our elders. They have been on the earth far, far, far longer than we two-leggeds, than we humans have been. And so they have so much to teach us. And because we're in danger of killing ourselves and taking a lot of life with us, the earth will survive. But, we would like to also, I would like us to also, and I think many people would, right? The plants have messages. So it's sort of like, imagine that you are trying to teach somebody, a kid, maybe something important that you see would really help them, and they just won't listen. Yeah. It's frustrating. So I would say that listening to them and learning their teachings is a way of also tending and taking care of plants. Yeah. And then in something I literally just did was recorded a little video about creating a giveaway bag, right? So, it can be, I just put them away, or I'd show you, but, something, it can be the simplest little muslin bag, or it could be something fancy that you paint and put sequins and feathers on, or whatever, right? But something that when you go to the plant to harvest, especially for medicine, physical, spiritual, emotional, or mental, right? Or food, right? That you put down something. It's a gift of gratitude. And you say thank you. That tends to the plants. I bet you've noticed this. Maybe a lot of you have seen this. Like, when there's happiness going on in the home, our plants are happier. Sometimes when we're going through stuff, we're fighting with somebody, whatever, right? You start to notice your plants are suffering too. Yeah. Right. So everything we do for ourselves, we do for the plants and one another, and everything we do to ourselves, we do to everything else. So, that's just some thoughts on that.
Beautiful.
I had a friend finally leave her husband because she said the plants are dying. Like, what more do I say? And she became a healthier person. So, our health is really important. Yeah. Right. And the plants give us the gift of kinship is immensely important for our mental, emotional health. Right. It's like so important. I had no idea this was something the plants had for me when I turned to them way back looking for answers to health problems. And in addition, they have so much to offer us for our health, right? I mean, obviously I kept it, kind of on the simpler side for kids. I wasn't talking about, if you're having heart failure, use, rose or hawthorn berry, what have you. But, we can learn and get started with things like scrapes and bumps and bruises or headaches or anxiety, or, right? I mean, kids have all those things, and the plants have answers for us, right? They're remarkable. Yeah. Right. So letting them help us is not with greed, right? But with gratitude is another way of tending to the plants, right? Moving into deeper relationship, like you said, like you would with me or your wife, or,
Yeah. I mean, giving is like the greatest joy. When you're giving someone a gift or, kind words, or it feels good for the person giving it. So when we when we accept that from the plants, we're right, doing them a solid too.
And if you think about it, especially now, giving any plant your time, your attention, your full attention is huge, in the same way that is honestly the greatest gift you can give a person, right? Is your full present attention, awareness. That's something the plants help us return to, in my experience, right? They help us kind of go against the cultural narrative of what's normal back into more natural rhythms. And only that takes a little bit of willingness to, to receive that teaching, but it's very much matters. Like, I think it's going to be pivotal to our well-being moving forward into these unprecedented times we're moving into, where technology is going to accelerate at a pace we can't even imagine it yet. I intuitively feel this. It's just, things are going to be shifting so rapidly that this connection, through a cup of tea,
Yeah.
right, or through just getting barefoot and putting your feet on the earth, right? Or there's a beautiful rose ritual for the kids in the book. And you know what? I just had this thought, Mason. I want to share an image that relates to what you described with the connecting ritual that you did with the tree.
Yeah.
And I saw it at the time. I was like, oh, I want to show this. And now, of course, it's hiding. All right, I'll show a different one. You're drinking rose.
Sure.
I'll show rose. I'll
There we
show a
go.
beautiful rose picture. But it's the dandelion, the sharing breath. Oh, here it is. Here it is. It's right in the beginning. So
Oh,
this
yeah.
is what you were doing, right, with your juniper, is exhaling and letting the plant physically take you in, and inhaling what the plant is exhaling. And this is not metaphysical woo-woo. This is physiologically what's happening. So that helps me because I want to be connected with reality. I'm not interested in the magic that is false, right? And literally, we are always connected with the plants and trees. We are breathing in what they exhale, and they breathe in what we exhale. So what we're really doing in the way we're working and talking about green witch rituals and plant magic is reminding us of what's true and what's always happening,
Absolutely.
helping us remember.
I love that. Is there anything about the connection ritual that we haven't already talked about that you want to let the audience know? Because I do think it's a very crucial part of the book. And again,
We
covered it.
I think we've done well. I think we
Okay.
can, talk about other things.
Sweet. Well, I love it. And so one of my bullet points I definitely wanted to cover was I really like how you emphasize most of these activities, rituals, etc. in the book can be done alone, but you highly encourage the youngins out there to kind of get together and do some of these rituals together. And as I was reading some of these, rituals and you emphasizing the group aspect of it, it kind of made me very, I don't know, not emotional, but it made me very happy just visualizing these kiddos out there getting together, and performing these rituals. I would love to hear you speak to the group aspect and just the group aspect of all this. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know what you mean too, because when people have so kindly sent me pictures of their kids or grands reading the book, it's like when I was writing it, I forgot that like real kids are going to be reading this
Yeah.
and making these recipes or doing these rituals and getting this stuff, at a young age that we got later. So it makes me so happy. So I hear you. So let me see if I can find a ritual that here. I can't help it. I love Rachel Grant's art so much. So here's motherwort. And this is such a wonderful plant. And I am drinking out of a cup that has motherwort leaves,
That's awesome.
in the embedded into it. So one thing actually, as I look for the ritual that I want to say is, so every one of I think it's 9 plants that are in here, what I do is say what the plant's magic is, what it says, and then, and then give a poem, meet motherwort, meet rose, meet dandelion. And then each plant has harvesting, identifying tips, recipes in the kitchen, herbal medicine recipes, and then rituals and magic. So it's the most structured book I've ever written. I came up with this structure, and I stuck with it because it worked. So all the creativity in the kitchen ones are all grouped, right? Because you can make things together. But let's see, sit with a motherwort. Motherwort's meant, actually, wait, I'm going backwards just 1 second. I
All right.
didn't want to do a tease. Motherwort's magic is courage and lion-hearted magic. Motherwort says, you are braver than you think, and I bring comfort when you need it. All right. So all of them have their magic and what they say. And then, so like with Motherwort, maybe let's imagine 3 children, right, of any age,
Yep.
deciding to sit with a motherwort plant. So I encourage you to touch the plant and imagine your heart and motherwort's heart beginning to beat together. You might put your hands over your heart and talk to her silently or loud and tell her anything you were feeling about something that you wish was different than the way it is. Because that's a little side here. That's like how we cause ourselves the most pain. We just wish it wasn't happening. We wish it was different, whatever it is. Right. And then ask her for her help to trust the bitter as well as the sweet. Right. And then ask her for 1 leaf. And then when she gives you the permission, gently take the leaf and nibble a little bit of it. Right. So I'm imagining a few kids, right, just doing this together. And then they can share with one another what they felt or what they heard, or a different way maybe they were given to look at the thing they were disappointed at. Artemisia's magic is trust yourself and be true to yourself. Right. And her magic is intuition and dream big magic. Intuition and dream big. So one other, okay, these are all, I keep opening to rituals that you could really do by yourself. The rose ritual in here is a beautiful group ritual about creating an arch, like a pathway of rose petals, and maybe constructing some kind of arch or using 2 trees and doing a celebration of each person, let's say each kid. And when they cross over the rose petals, they're like, maybe it could be whatever they decide they want it to be, but it could be, for example, they take one part of themselves that they judge and they decide they're going to love that part of themselves when they get to the other side of the rose petals. And then everybody greets them with a piece of chocolate or what have you, and a hug. And then, so that's a beautiful, simple group ritual, because ritual doesn't need to be complex and it doesn't need to be complicated. It needs to be sincere, right? It needs to be sincere. And then anywhere you can bring in beauty or you can bring in humor, these are all helpful, but ritual speaks to our inner child, right? And our inner being, right? Enacting things is very different than just saying them. I'm going to work on self-acceptance is different than crossing a bridge of roses and saying, when my feet touch the other side of this, I am going to be, I'm kinder to the part of myself that's scared. Right. Yeah. So those are a couple of examples. So there's spells, there's snacks, there's the medicine, the physical medicine, of course, and
some body care recipes too. I want to say there's like a rose face mask.
Yeah.
That right? Yep.
Yeah, you are. And then here's a fun one. Dandelion seed wishes is a magical ritual almost everyone knows, but it is timeless. Gather a stalk with a beautiful round seed head on top and make a special wish. And when you're ready to make the wish, blow on the moon-shaped seed head and send those star seeds that represent your wish out to the 4 winds. Then remember, comes back to the connection, to put a giveaway gift down for the dandelion plant to say thank you for the star seeds and for helping you state your wish to the universe. And the dandelion may thank you too, because you're planting new dandelions for next spring. Right. I would love to share one of the poems. I don't know if you have a request of which one.
No, I was actually going to ask you about that. Feel free to go with whatever your heart calls to.
Okay. You choose between lavender and plantain.
Let's go lavender.
Okay. So lavender is sweet. Here's the picture.
Nice.
So
Zoom in
beautiful,
there.
right? And lavender's magic is sweet blessings. And what lavender says is open to sweet delight. Meet lavender. I'm known to be sweet, but that's not all. If you feel hurt, I'm here when you call. I whisper blessings into your ears. Here's my message to take away fears. You will be okay. I promise you. You're held in love. This really is true. Drink me iced or hot at any time to relax and cause I taste sublime. I help you sleep and have sweet dreams. I dispel nightmares and sparkle moonbeams. In a sleep pillow or in your bath, I'll help you feel delight on your path. All right. So then we have the recipes for lavender tea and lavender baths and directions for crafting a lavender dream pillow, sleep pillow. And that's a wonderful ritual to do in a circle, whether the circle is 2 people or 10 people, right? Any more than one, it's nice to share, right? That kind of ritual. But yeah, there's lavender. Lavender heals heartbreak and heartache and dispels fears and nightmares. And it tastes really good. Like a lot of
Smells
times if I
good.
serve lavender, people are like, I've never imagined this could be a tea. You know?
Well before Amanda was into herbalism at all, she got a lavender tattoo. So shout out to Amanda. It's definitely one of her spirit plants. Yeah,
Beautiful.
throughout the book, every time I flip to a new plant, I'm just thinking, dang, I need this plant more in my life. Just drinking this rose tea right now is just I've got a jar of rose petals and I barely utilize or like hang out with the rose, and I'm realizing this is definitely some medicine I need more of. So it's very inspirational. And you know, while we were talking about the group activities, I was just kind of thinking I could already see the type of kiddo, and maybe I'm being overly stereotypical here, of who might be drawn to this book, and who I'm really hoping discovers this book is the person who is very unfamiliar with a lot of the stuff already. I really
Yeah.
think the shy kid who would feel self-conscious about even picking up this book is probably going to be one of the people that could most use it. And I'm just thinking of me as a kid, like I might feel embarrassed. I might have felt embarrassed if I picked up this book and like asked my friends to go do some of this stuff. But I could see how this could be some of the most healing activities that we do as children. And I just, it's my prayer and wish that I hope that the kids that really need this discover it and
Right.
become,
Thank you.
yeah, confident to share it and spread it with their friends. And I don't know if you have any comment on that, but I just
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it should be a part of like homeschool too. You know what I mean? Or curriculum.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It would be really great for that. I remember once I was doing a class and then closing with a ritual for mothers. And I think, trying to remember if it might have even been in a shelter. It was a challenging environment. Let's say that it was not a safe environment for the people living in it. It was temporary. And I purposely left out like the teen boys who were kind of, on the outskirts. I think what I was doing was I was sweeping the women with a broom, like just help you release a little,
Sure.
After I was done, the boys came up and they said, "Won't you do us too?"
Amazing.
So, I think it is a question of being exposed, right? Of being exposed to it. And even because it's so natural and because we're so hungry for it, for connection, for nature, even before we realize sometimes how hungry we are for it, the littlest thing opens the door for people, the smallest thing. So, but I mean, I love your prayer and I absolutely have the same, right? But the smallest thing will help spark that, I believe. And,
I love that.
I often have seen and noticed that people, like if I'll start talking and coming from the place of connection that I have achieved after many years, right? It's not like I started here either. I didn't even want to sit on the ground when I was doing my apprenticeship, right? Wait, you want me to sit on the dirt? I was a city girl. I didn't know. So, take heart if you think you're supposed to be at some level of connection, right? To do anything. You're not. You don't have to. But what I see so many times is that because this is so aligned with who we actually are and how we've evolved with nature and kinship, it's like that door opens so much more easily than people think it will. And people who think even listening to plants is crazy, right? They get the most profound messages, right? And people are doing it for years. Look at them like, I'm now jealous of you because you don't even believe this is real. And listen, you just came out. That kind of thing. So, everything is conspiring to help us to open, to help us to evolve. And I know you love oat straw.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was here before, we did the oat straw meditation. So I have to share with you. I don't have to. I want to.
Please.
So oat straw is inner, and I'm also, because I'm drinking oat straw in here.
Nice.
Inner peace and beauty magic. And oat straw says, relax. I see your beauty and strength. Relax. I see your beauty and strength. And do you have it in? Do you want to hear one more poem, or do you want to talk about other things here?
Let's do the poem, and I will point people in the direction of the oat straw meditation, which I'm going to take this opportunity, Robin. I don't know if you know this, but before I went on Rosalie De La Fore's podcast like a year and a half ago, for a month I drank oat straw infusion every day, oat top extract every day. I did oatmeal every day, and I did your oat straw meditation every day for 30 days to prepare. Did I never tell? I don't think I ever told you that, but
no, you didn't.
And I did want to say I really loved seeing that the oat straw meditation was in this book, because it was also in your book, The Gift of Healing Herbs, as well. Yep. So it was a nice tie-in together. So I'll link to the video where Robin Rose leads that ritual for you. But in the meantime, feel free to tie it all together with the oat straw poem.
Okay, and I love your story, and I imagine that you turned into oat straw.
I think I might have.
All right, meet oat straw. Have you ever seen me swaying in the breeze? With my roots well planted, I move as I please. Grasses dancing in place, whisper my love song, growing beauty and grace and nerves that are strong. I help you stand your ground, holding peace within, all while growing stronger nails, hair, and clear skin. I help you flow with ease, adjust to what's new, growing flexible, yet staying true to you.
I love that. And I could attest to the power of Avena sativa, oat straw, oats, all the above. And I could probably say this about all the plants in this book, but if I was a teenager dealing with, all sorts of ailments that teenagers do, I truly think that an oat straw infusion every day really, really could profoundly affect the health and well-being, mental well-being. If you're a young person out there listening to this and you want to
absolutely
really get some vitality going, oat straw infusion is going to be a great ally to have.
Yeah, it makes you resilient. It helps you be resilient.
Speaking of all of these different plants, I did notice, so there's 9 plants in the book, and I want to say somewhere I read that 8 of them are perennial, and then oat's the only annual. That's not really part of my question. Just kind of curious how you overall came up with the plants that you wanted to talk about, because obviously you could write a sequel to this and come up with 9 new plants, but what made you choose these 9 plants?
That's a good idea. I'm going to take a note on that. Maybe
Yeah.
I chose these because I wanted plants that were generally recognized as safe, right? Plants that were findable fairly easily in the wild, or that could be grown, and that were abundant. So that was my criteria. And whenever possible, tasty. Because I have seen in my classes that kids get most excited about what they can eat.
Sure.
So, yeah. Actually, so do the big kids. They get really excited about what they can eat. The
Even
big kids, meaning the adults, yeah.
The motherwort taste could be intimidating for some, but once you get used to that
Oh
bitter
yeah.
flavor, you start noticing some complexities to
Right.
various
Well,
bitters.
but then that one I put in there, first of all, because like the oat straw, motherwort is so helpful for kids in this age of so many challenges to their mental, emotional stability and well-being. And motherwort's just such a beautiful, calming plant. But I also put that in there specifically to provide some of the teachings about that life does include bitter aspects.
Oh, I like
Right.
that.
You
I like
know,
that.
and we get misled into thinking that everything's always supposed to be sweet and everything's always supposed to be good or easy or this, and then we're frustrated. But that's not life, right? And we've gotten so overprotective in some ways of children that they don't grow, their wholeness.
Yeah.
So
That's
that
such
was
a good point.
intentional. Yeah. And mugwort too is in there with that
That's right.
in mind. Like, this is a plant that's not like gentle and sweet. And this is a plant that's kind of intense and fierce.
Yeah.
But kids need to cultivate those qualities too. Right. Yeah. And yeah.
That's awesome. Well, we're nearing the hour. We've got some other questions for you, but I would be remiss if we didn't chat more about Rachel Grant. You did mention her briefly earlier in the show, but I would just love to hear a little bit more about the illustrator, the artist behind the book. How do you know Rachel, and anything else?
Well, we haven't met, and I could try to do shorter answers if you want to get to your other questions too.
Sure, no.
But Rachel is a beautiful artist. In England.
Okay.
And the publisher had sent me some artists to check out, and none of them was right. And then they sent me some more artists to check, and one of them was Rachel. And I was like, I love her work.
Cool.
And then she loved the book, and she has said beautiful things about how she wishes she had it when she was a child. And so now we're kind of the mutual admiration society.
That's awesome.
I follow her on Instagram, and I see the beautiful paintings that I love her work. So I feel very, very, very blessed. And what was so cool too was, like, if I would send something back and say I'd like more of this, she would revise, the drawing, the painting. So we did get to work together in that way. I was like, that doesn't quite capture. Could you try that? And she did, and then she'd nail it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And then, of course, looking at the front cover, you could see all 9 plants right there, and she really did nail it.
Yeah. Well, and also I have to say the publisher, Running Press, this imprint of Hachette, they're one of the last big, 5 big publishing houses in the world. They designed a beautiful book. They she did the illustrations and I did the writing, but their design,
that's cool.
It's just exquisite. Even the way they highlighted things and made the colors go with the herb we were, talking about. So I'm also very grateful to them. They did a beautiful job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course, we'll leave links to the book in the podcast and YouTube show notes. Do you want people to go to your website to purchase the book, robinrosebennett.com, or?
They can purchase it there for a signed copy, but they can also purchase it at Bookshop. I love promoting bookshop.org because every time you buy a book from there, they donate money to independent bookshops every single time you buy a book there. So, or the evil Amazon, or, wherever you want to. I get things from all over too. But yeah, they can go to Robin Rose Bennett, robinrosebennettbooks.com, or wholesale. I have the wholesale information for stores, shops or schools that might want to order the book. Or go to the library. If you don't want to own it, or you don't have room, you live on a houseboat, go to the library.
I love that. I was actually going to ask you about that. Because I almost want to get a copy and maybe donate it to my library. Is that how that works? Do people just?
Well, libraries do buy books, but if a consumer comes in and requests it and brings it to their attention, they'll often buy it. Yeah. Or if some wonderful person wants to donate it, they will definitely accept it.
That's cool.
So any which way you or any of you want to do that, I would love to see this book and all my books really in libraries, because then it just increases the access to heart-opening, health-enhancing information,
Yeah.
right? That then ripples out.
Kind of a strange question related to that. Are you noticing the term witch becoming less and less taboo? Like us as an herbal community are kind of taking it back. It means a very positive thing in our circle. And I'm just
Right.
like, I'm picturing it going to the library and people, in certain parts of the country maybe being like, oh, that's way too taboo for us to carry or something like that. But
Well, I'm sure that is true in some
yeah,
places.
sure.
It depends. It totally
Yeah.
depends. But I've been surprised at at the receptivity
Hmm.
to that. And Green Witch is somehow more acceptable. It sounds friendlier in some way, or I don't know. But obviously, Hollywood, etc., has done quite a job. Not to mention, history. It's done quite a
Sure.
job on witches. But yeah, it is a reclaiming. It is a reclaiming, and in some ways, it's great that it's spreading. In other ways, it's watered down. Um, but I haven't found like libraries or bookstores reluctant to carry my books, which pretty much all have Green Witch in the title.
Yeah, they do. That's right.
Well, everything except the Gift of
Noticing
Healing
a theme
Herb,
here. Yeah.
right? But Healing Magic, a Green Witch Guidebook to Conscious Living, and then there's my little
Pocketbook.
pocketbook, right, which you've also helped tell people about, which I
That's
really
right.
appreciate.
Absolutely.
And so I'm out as a Green Witch, and that's what you bring. If they want it, they want it. If they won't, they won't. But I haven't seen a big problem, and maybe we need to push that. We certainly don't want to self-censor,
Yeah.
right? There's enough problem with, what? I became proud for a minute to be a New Jerseyite or New Jersey and whatever we are, because New Jersey just passed a law banning books.
Very cool.
Yes,
Very
it's
progressive.
like a few days ago. I'm like,
Yeah. Well, the Appleton Public Library is about to do a grand reopening. I'm very excited for that. So I'll request it. And if they don't get it in, I'll just
thank you.
donate a copy. Absolutely. Um,
Beautiful.
well, we got one more question, and then I would love to end it with your traditional closing blessing.
Okay.
But we'll do a guest question from, I want to say she's your assistant witch. Is it Nicola?
Yep.
So she was very helpful, behind the scenes, and actually gave me some ideas for questions. And I really like this one, so I think it could be a fun way to wrap up the show. For someone, and this is from Nicola, for someone just beginning their herbal journey, what are some simple ways that they can start to cultivate a sense of kinship with plants and others?
Wherever you live, and I didn't mean to knock New Jersey. New Jersey's got a lot of great stuff.
Sure.
And people. Wherever you live, walk outside your door, whether you are in a high-rise apartment and have to take an elevator down to the ground, or you're in the suburbs, or you're in a rural area. Walk outside of your door, quiet your mind, and just kind of see where your feet take you. Right. And let your eyes be soft as you walk, and there will be some plant or some tree that just kind of pulls your attention.
Hmm.
And I would start there. Whether you know the name of that tree or not. Maybe you want to bring a little, drawing pad and draw what you see. That would be a wonderful way. It takes it out of the, left brain intellect, words. I love words, but I also love silence, and I love visual. So would be a wonderful way to start, just to sit and do what you did, breathing or drawing. Or one of my very favorites is to do a writing practice that I originally learned from Natalie Goldberg, her writing teacher, Buddhist, among many things. And you do a writing practice where you don't lift your pen from the page. And what I have my students do, and anybody could do this, just beginning, this plant says. And you just write, this plant says, this plant says, this plant says, until something else comes. And if nothing's coming, you don't lift your pen, you just keep going. This plant says this, and things will come. Things will come. And that's a beautiful, always surprising, practice. I think that's in the Young Green Witch book somewhere too. I'm sure it is, because I love that practice. And, whether you have been doing it for 50 years or 2 minutes, it makes zero difference. In fact, the shorter that you've been, or the less you know what the plant is, or the greater advantage that is, right? Because then your intellect isn't taking over and you can just flow. And then a key thing, and so you decide, I'm going to do this for 1 page, or I'm going to do this for 5 minutes. You're going to time it, but whatever it is, you do what you said, and then you read it aloud. It's very important, the second step of reading it aloud, because it's the only way you'll truly hear that little gem here or there that came through. So that's a wonderful, simple practice.
Beautiful.
The drawing or the writing, the feeling, getting pulled to something. Yeah.
You mentioned in the book, when you write it down, as opposed to like typing it, you're actually activating a different part of the brain, which I thought that was really fascinating.
Yeah, it's physiologically true, right? And you remember it differently.
Yeah, you really ingrain it in your psyche. This has been wonderful, Robin. Would you be open to ending it with how you end the book, with the traditional closing blessing green witches say?
I would indeed. So,
Awesome. I thought I could count on you for that.
yeah, and thank you, so much for the opportunity to be here and speak to you and speak to your audience, and you're awesome.
Likewise. Thanks, Robin.
Thank you. So here's our closing words: merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again. 3 times. Merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again. Merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again. Blessed be.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Robin Rose Bennett. Again, all links will be in the podcast show notes. Thanks so much for your time, Robin. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Can't wait to have another convo when you come out with yet another book. You're prolific. That's the Young Green Witch's Guide to Plant Magic. All right, that's going to do it, y'all. See you in the next episode.
Bye.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks so much for watching today's episode of the Herbalist Hour. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want more great herbal content, be sure to subscribe to our Herbal YouTube channel. If you enjoy these Herbalist Hour episodes and you'd like to join us live, you can do so by becoming an Herbal Schoolhouse member. Learn more at herbal.com/schoolhouse. And if you want to get your first 30 days for free, use coupon code YouTube30 at checkout. So our Herbal Schoolhouse members get access to exclusive video classes, monographs, and a lot more herbal community discounts, along with joining these live Herbalist Hour interviews. So one more time, herbal.com/schoolhouse. Enter coupon code YouTube30 at checkout to get your first 30 days for free. All right, we'll see you in the next episode, and take care.